Okay, folks, so JB and I are here. Hello, JB.
Hello.
JB and I have been chatting, and it has come to our attention that both of us have been approached on numerous occasions now down at the bunker and a couple of our lads and at conventions and whatnot with the age-old question of, hey, you guys do role-playing as well. I'd quite like to role-play. I know nothing about it, never done it before, don't know where to start. And usually we kind of, say, come on down, give it a go or whatever. But we decided to give it some serious thought.
Yeah, we did. That's odd for us.
Yes, because we've had a full conversation about it.
We have.
So
we're going to condense it.
We are. We're going to try and hone it down here to like 10-15 minutes. Basically, we've boiled down a couple of starter sets that we've looked at. They're not full-fledged RPGs in their entirety, but they cover most of the bases. We're going science fiction, we're going fantasy, and we're going a couple of other places.
Yeah, and it's just basically we've got a couple of ideas as, look, you don't know where, you've never role-played, you don't know where to start. Well, here's where to start.
Okay, so the first one I'm going to kick off with, and you don't have to be a fan of it to enjoy it. Star Wars Fantasy Flight have an Age of Empire beginner's box. They have an Age of Rebellion beginner's box, and they have Force and Destiny beginner box. Essentially, what you're getting there is a box with a rule book, a couple of starting characters, maps, counters, dice.
Yeah, so it's taking you through the mechanics without the need to create a character of your own, so you get the idea of how to play without having to invest in an enormous amount of time and understand any particularly complex mechanics.
Exactly. They hold your hand. The GM stuff, I think, is particularly great. Even if you're a GM who's been out of practice.
Or haven't done it ever before.
Yeah. It literally shows you, hey, you need to read this. This box here's coloured red. You need to read this to your players. This box black, it's a bit of advice.
Yeah. So it's a good idea for the GM, whoever's taking over the running of the game, to have read it beforehand. But it's not a big book. It's not going to take you a long time. Even if you just get it an hour beforehand, it'll probably give you enough time to get it down.
Yeah. Out of everything I've seen, the Star Wars Age of Empire kind of stuff is the closest I've seen to somebody literally sitting beside you and holding your hand going, this is how to do it.
Absolutely. We played through it as experienced role players and we went, that was incredibly simple. And we were very confident that anybody new coming to it would be able to have a go with literally that hour beforehand. Done.
So you go, bang, science fiction. JB, fantasy.
Fantasy, well, the old classic, Dungeons and Dragons. If you're even if you're not a gamer, or if you have any idea of gaming culture at all, you'll have heard of Dungeons and Dragons. They do a starter set, and very much in the same vein as Star Wars Age of Empire. It's got what you need in the box. There's more advanced books you can buy for it if you really want to, but the starter box, it's about 20-25 quid, and you have got, well, your basic rules, your basic how to play, some pre-generated characters, the tokens and maps and things that you'll need to play. It's full of the stuff you need, but it's not overfull to make it overcomplicated.
Similar sort of vein, there is a Pathfinder start set. I'm told there's a new one coming.
I believe you might be right. I've never played Pathfinder, so I don't really know.
I played the Pathfinder starter set. Now, okay, take this totally out of context. I'm not a huge fan of Pathfinder, but I'll give it its dues. The starter set done its job beautifully. As someone who knew nothing about Pathfinder, I was able to run the adventure. Everyone was able to follow and enjoy it. Probably of a similar kind of quality to the Star Wars stuff. Loads of coloured maps for the players, little cardboard characters for the players. The thing I think Pathfinder does well is that if you are a miniatures gamer and gaming to you is predominantly about the figures and whatnot, Pathfinder seems to lend itself quite well to that. It seems to be a little bit more about where the figures are and what they're doing than it is about the characters and your skills and things like that. It's role-playing light.
Role-playing it. But again, everything you need in the box, but not too much in the box.
Exactly. It was a pleasant, you kind of, nice value, 20 odd quid again. You know, and I was like, or maybe it was 30 quid actually. And it was, I'm getting a lot of things here. And it walks you through, don't read this first, read this next. Go and do this now, play your game, you'll have fun. So again, it holds your hand.
Yep. And just a final note on the fantasy, if you're coming to fantasy from the Warhammer Games Workshop end, there's a new starter box, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, coming out in, I believe, the end of September. And from the summaries that I've seen, I imagine it does exactly the same thing. Starter box, all the basic information you need, enough to play a game with very little hassle. Usually the opportunity then, with all of these, to go on, buy the more advanced things if you're into it, if you're enjoying it, and develop your role-playing from there.
mean, that is the big point about all of these. For anyone that's wanting to experiment with role-playing, you're talking in most of these a price point in and around the £20 mark.
Yeah.
You have more than enough for a good solid night, maybe a couple of nights
in some cases
games.
3 or 4.
Yeah, potentially 3 or 4, without investing a whole pile of money. There is no big expectation on you. Nothing in any of these is complicated and going to push your brain out the side of your ears. Other forthcoming one, to give it a horror twist, is Chaosium's Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. They are now bringing out a starter box set.
I'm looking forward to that.
So I've got to say, as an experienced Cthulhu player, I'm probably going to buy it for giggles. It does seem to be, and this time I use the phrase jam-packed with a degree of caution. I almost fear, horror, that it's got a little bit more than you might necessarily need to begin with.
I imagine, though, that it will probably be well separated, as it does advertise that there's 4 starter scenarios and 3 classic scenarios.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be at all surprised to find that it's done in the same manner to these. You've just got this extra booklet, possibly, of
added value. You've got
value.
familiar, try on with these. But I mean, Call of Cthulhu is one of the cornerstones of role-playing.
Certainly one of the cornerstones of our role-playing.
Yeah. But I mean, it's there, 25 odd years now?
Goodness,
it's one of the granddaddies. So I mean, if you haven't tried role-playing at all and you have a bit of a thread for horror, Chaosium's Call of Cthulhu, you know, where has it been all your life? Okay, that kind of covers the box sets that we've looked at and read up on for you. JB has a rather nice little booklet.
The first one, still in the science fiction bent, and still a relatively traditional role-playing game. 316, Carnage Amongst the Stars, written by Gregor Hutton and available from Box Ninja.
And a lovely bloke to boot.
Yeah, we met him. He's a nice guy.
Yes, he is indeed.
Basically, this is a very good introduction, a very simple introduction to actually generating a character for yourself and role-playing it.
Yep.
The characters you're asked to create have only 2 things which are slightly random. There are only 2 statistics and only 2 characteristics you need to worry about. Both are dice-based, and they allow you to choose to be better at one thing and not so good at the other. That's pretty much all they ask you to do.
Yeah.
Then there's a small amount of equipment choice. It's a science fiction game in the you are going to go and shoot lots of aliens.
The universe is at war and you are the war.
Pretty much, yes. There's the role-playing involved generally is outside of the combat aspects of it, and it's about how you react and react to and with your fellow players and the characters that are being run. This does require a games master, but it is very, very simple. And the only map it has is a small page which shows how far are you from the aliens.
Yeah, it's about your placement proximity.
Yeah.
But it is very, very straightforward. It has been written with the purpose of having fun with a game.
Absolutely.
But again, there's no big mad depth to this. This is literally, we're going into space, we're going down planets, we're going to fight different Xenos. And if that doesn't ring bells with a tabletop war game that's been going about for 30 odd years, well, you're probably listening to the wrong broadcast.
Absolutely, it's very simple, and it takes your hand pretty much in the same way as the others do. It's just reading through a book rather than having a whole number of different cards and pullouts and things.
Little bit more creativity.
Absolutely. So the last one, which is an odd choice, it's not a traditional role-playing game, but it is, in my opinion, a fantastic introduction to role-playing. What it is this is Fiasco by Jason Morningstar. Published by Bully Pulpit. Again, an A5 book with, I'm just reading it here, 129 pages.
I like the fact we struggle over the word book.
Yes, I was trying to multitask. So it's an A5 book, it's 125 pages, about half of those pages are scenarios. So
scenarios, by the way, in case you're not sure, are the concepts of the story.
Yeah, absolutely. The difference with Fiasco is that it's not necessarily set in a fantasy setting. It's not necessarily set in a science fiction setting or any particular setting. There are hundreds of settings. There's 4 examples in the book. And there are dozens, if not scores, if not hundreds, available online. I certainly have downloaded a couple, which I've played. Fiasco is a game where there is nobody in charge. You're doing it collectively.
Creative storytelling.
Collaborative. You told me not to use the word collaborative.
Well, you've used about 9 big words in the past 30 seconds, so I thought I'd throw in one.
All right. So basically what you do, the idea of Fiasco is effectively that you and a group of friends are going to sit around and you're going to come up with a film script. You're going to create characters for yourselves, but the characters are limited to the relationship to the people on either side of you. So for argument's sake, you are playing a science fiction based game, and you'll randomly determine what your relationship is to the person on your left. So you might determine that your relationship to the person on your left is farm boy and aged mentor. And the person on your right is princess, possibly your sister, you're not exactly sure. And some other guy has got space pilot and co-pilot.
Yeah.
So you're not exactly sure how this works. If you're not exactly sure how this works, it tells you very simply. And those things that they give you at the start, which you create, are useful little tools and little pins to tie your story together with. The only thing you need really for this is a couple of pencils, some jotting paper, and quite a lot of six-sided dice. You need 4 for each player. And some way of separating those six-sided dice into 2 separate types.
Chances are, if you've got a couple of traditional board games in the house, the likes of Risk and Monopoly and things like that, you should be able to fish through them. But even at that, Amazon, eBay, you'll get D6, six-sided dice of a couple of different colours for £2 or £3.
Yeah, really and truly, you don't even need that many if you remember to note down the ones that you've coloured. About 3 or 4 of each side with you. And a way of hiding them so that you can't look whenever you pull them out. Because pulling out the random one type or the other is a key mechanic in the games. As I said, I think it's a wonderful way to try role-playing because the pressure's not on anybody.
The fact that it works together with everybody and everyone gets a little bit of input and the positive, negative outcomes, it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And if you find yourself personally under pressure at any time and you don't know what to do, you can hand the pressure over to everybody else, and they can do it collectively.
Works quite nicely if you've got a couple of a shy person in the group who's
Absolutely.
not very outgoing.
Yes.
Because if they're not sure, you can even give them a character that suits their own nature.
Absolutely.
And then the group can work together to kind of bring that out in the game.
Yeah, I mean, you get to define your own character to a great extent, but without having to actually put numbers on anything.
So there you go. That is our kind of 10 cents worth of the best that we've looked at. Now, that's not to say it's not an exhaustive list. There are other good games. There are other good games that
Absolutely.
are good for people starting out. But these are the ones that we've definitely put our hand to. We're not saying that these are the best role-playing games in the world, except for Call of Cthulhu. But certainly, if you know nothing about it and you want to dip your toe without spending a big pile of money and you don't know who to turn to, but you have a little group of friends all eager to try, pretty much anything that we've rattled through there, and the pictures are on and the web addresses are on where possible, will give you a foot up the ladder and a little bit of guidance and a lot of support in starting your first little role-playing adventure. And there is DLC for these. I mean, if you're really hip and trendy, you can still get DLC.
You certainly can for Fiasco,
Yeah. Right, thanks for listening. Catch us later, and we shall speak to you all anon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.